Mr. Holtzclaw, this jury finds you guilty of the various counts. You will be remanded to the custody of the Oklahoma County Sheriff for formal sentencing set January 21st, 2016 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Daniel Holtzclaw, the former Oklahoma City Police Department patrol officer, was accused of 18 counts involving 8 different women. The police report says that he took advantage of his position as an officer running background checks to get information. He used the information to coerce victims into sex. Several of the accusers had minor criminal offenses like drug arrests, and all of them were African American. Holtzclaw pleaded not guilty to all the charges but was convicted on 18 out of the 36 charges, and he was sentenced to 263 years in prison.
Count 36, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Mr. Holtzclaw, this jury finds you guilty of the various, you will be remanded to the custody of the Oklahoma County Sheriff for formal sentencing set January 21st, 2016 at 10 o'clock a.m.
Holtzclaw had a specific area where he would commit these crimes in a poorer part of the city. He was caught after the offense, which he committed approximately at around 2 a.m. on the 18th of June 2014. Holtzclaw reportedly made a traffic stop after his shift had already ended. When he was driving back to his residence in his assigned police vehicle, the driver stopped a 57-year-old woman, Janie Liggins, as she drove through that same area while Holtzclaw targeted his victims. Liggins did not have a criminal record and she was not poor. The former officer forced the 57-year-old lady to perform oral sex on him after making her lift her skirt and pull down her pants in the middle of the streets. Liggins testified she begged for mercy and was afraid for her life. She filed the report. She was the reason the women before her got justice, and the women after her will be saved. One of the victims, who was 17 at the time of the offense, came up and her DNA was found on Holtzclaw's trouser zip. Holtzclaw was charged with 16 counts of sexual abuse and offenses, which includes rape in the first and the second degrees, sexual battery, procuring lewd exhibitions, stalking, and forcible oral sodomy.
29 years. Together with 10 years imprisonment on each count of child cruelty, to run concurrently. Hughes was sentenced to 21 years imprisonment for manslaughter.
Wayne Couzens. A 33-year-old Sarah Everard was kidnapped in South London, England. She was on her way home when the incident happened. Former Metropolitan Police Officer Wayne Couzens arrested Everard, and the reasons was she breached the COVID-19 regulations, but then he drove her to near Dover, where he went on to rape and strangled her to death. He went on to burn the body and disposed of her remains in a nearby pond. Couzens was arrested at his home in Deal, as it was speculated that he was involved in the kidnapping of one Miss Sarah Everard. He was interviewed about the event. Initially, he claimed he did not recognize Everard when shown a photograph of her. He then changed his statement to having financial problems after paying for sex in Folkestone. He claimed that a gang of Eastern Europeans had threatened him and his family, demanding another girl after underpaying a prostitute a couple of weeks before. A woman in her 30s was also arrested for suspicion of assisting an offender, but was released without charge. When Everard's remains were discovered, Couzens was rearrested on the suspicion of murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison.
Count of all the offending and the circumstances, we accept that the sentence is unduly lenient and substitute a sentence of 24 years imprisonment. Our full reasons are set out in the written judgment. That concludes this short hearing.
Braulio Gonzalez. Braulio Gonzalez has been a Miami-Dade police officer since 1999. He's a very skilled teammate, and he was assigned to the Special Response Team responsible for handling hostage situations, warrants, and searching for dangerous fugitives. He was 47 years old when he was convicted of armed kidnapping and several counts of lewd and lascivious molestation. A girl who was known to Gonzalez told the psychologist that she was fondled several times when she was 8 to 10 years old. It was between 2011 to 2013.
110, 122. Mr. Gonzalez, good morning, sir. The State Attorney's Office filed charges on your case. It appears that Mr. Rose already filed his notice of appearance. Your case is set for trial on January 10th. It's set for sounding on January 10th and it's set for sounding on January 22nd. We'll see you then.
The victim talked about her being threatened, and that explains why she waited so long for justice. The child also spoke to Florida Department of Children and Families official about how Gonzalez pointed a gun at her head and threatened to kill her cousin who was sleeping in the same room. 2 of the victims spoke out about what happened to them. 9 months after the indictment of those initial charges, another minor female came forward to accuse the defendant. She talks about how Gonzalez entered a bathroom to watch her shower when she was between the ages of 9 and 11. The former lieutenant and the Miami-Dade Police Department was sentenced to life in prison after he was convicted of molesting several girls.
So at this time, based on the jury's findings, On every count, I'm sentencing you to life in prison. Count 1 will be a 10-year minimum mandatory. Counts 2 through 9 will have a 25-year minimum mandatory. Everything will run concurrent.
Michael Headley, a former Washington State police officer, was sentenced to life in prison for murdering his next-door neighbor in Fairfax County.
Now, you get the out of here. Get out! No, get out! Get away! Get away! Get away! Get away! Get away! Get away! Get away!
Michael Headley, a 55-year-old man, killed his neighbor, leading one Javon Prather, who was only 24 at the time. The neighbors weren't on good terms and they had tensions. Headley had been facing a lot of issues, and the police and the neighborhood association in the townhouse community did not act on complaints about Prather. He took the matter into his own hands. Prather was a National Guardsman. They argued that the murder was partially motivated by race, and that is something Headley's attorney does not agree on. The entire event was captured on a ring cam, which was played over and over for the jury during the trial. The video shows how Headley shot Prather without warning and shot him repeatedly. Prather collapsed on his driveway, and when he saw Prather's wife, he aimed the gun at her too, threatening to kill her. Headley was a NASA security executive at the time. He does have a history of shooting, as he's killed 2 people before. However, the shootings were ruled justified. Janelle Prather's wife told the news that they would have stayed away from Headley if they knew he had a past like that. Headley was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Prather, convicted of first-degree murder.
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
Zachary Tyler Wester. Wester is an ambitious police officer who wanted to get into the narcotics department as soon as possible, and that was the reason which led to the conviction of many innocent people. The former deputy was charged with 67 counts of racketeering, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances. There were 12 drivers who were falsely imprisoned, and 11 of them filed civil lawsuits against the former police officer. Watch this video where it is seen.
Case about an abuse of an incredible power, about the abuse of the incredible trust that we all put, and we have to put, in law enforcement.
Seen this before? Yeah, what is that? I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car. You gonna go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay? Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything, what you want me to do, man?
Wester is planting evidence in the car which belongs to Teresa Odom, and at the beginning of the video from the dashcam footage, Wester can be seen very politely talking to Teresa. As he goes on to check the car, when he sees Teresa is not present, she walks away from the car. This video was what gave him away, as he can clearly be seen planting this evidence. Even at the courthouse, Teresa is adamant with her statement. If all the charges are proven, Wester could spend the rest of his life behind bars, but after 7 hours, the jury came up with a verdict. The clerk read all the charges, and he was found guilty on 19 charges.
Count 9, guilty of official misconduct as charged. Count 10, guilty of official misconduct as charged.
After the victims were proven innocent, 11 out of the 12 drivers filed civil lawsuits against Wester, and he's going to spend 12.5 years in prison. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more.